On this episode, we talk about Brock Lesnar as a babyface, Bray Wyatt having a goal, Owens and Cena, Diva Division update, Ziggler, Lana, plus questions now on Byte That. Welcome everybody, you are listening to episode 96 of Byte That, a weekly podcast where we discuss whether we love, we hate, we appreciate that which is the WWE and maybe the rest of professional wrestling. Thanks for tuning in and checking out the show. Remember, we are available every single Tuesday night. We got iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, ByteThat.com, and of course, for this and tons more, go over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. And if you want to interact with us, if you have a phone or a computer, technology, you can interact with us on social media at Byte That Cast on Twitter. Check us out on Facebook. Also at Byte That Cast Wrestling Amino. Byte That. Instagram. Pictures. Byte That. And for everything else, we should probably get to reveal our names. My name is Juan Velas. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico. And as always, I have the full staff with me. First, all the way from Boston, Ryan McNulty, people. He's here.
Hello there.
Hello. And from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, the Toothmeister, Keith Poshik, people.
What if I have a Palm Pilot? How do I interact with us then?
Oof. You can send emails there, right? Yeah, so you can send us an email at bytethatcast@gmail.com. Huh.
All right. Well played,
and you
sir.
didn't think that was going to happen.
No, I'm actually quite impressed.
But yes, we are here to, of course, talk about wrestling. The agenda is going to be a little bit interesting. We have a lot of questions, and I want to bring up something controversial after we split off to the second part of the show. So getting right off to what is probably the biggest thing, Brock Lesnar. Obviously, this Raw was very much devoted to the fact that Brock Lesnar is back. It's kind of weird getting Brock 2 weeks in a row, right? So what was your initial take on that? Like, Brock seems to be part of the normal show and not just the special attraction that he was a year ago.
It's just awesome that Brock's there. I think Brock's one of the best things going, and if there's going to be more Brock, then give me all the Brock.
Although I think this is all the Brock we're getting for a while.
I think there's going to be a steady amount of Brock.
We
like
got the
next
2 shows in
SummerSlam.
a row. I don't know if we're even going to see him till Battleground. And part of that might have to do with the fact that they were like, oh, these Suplex City shirts, which are pretty cool. We got the Columbus, Ohio or something, and we got Indianapolis, and then that's it. So it makes me think he's not going to be showing up in any other city. And that's
maybe they make a shirt every week. Maybe for every shirt, it's like every city Brock goes to, there's a shirt. It's the only
babyface thing Lesnar can do is just have the city on his shirt.
Yeah. Isn't that so weird? Like, we officially have Brock Lesnar as a babyface. Like the Paul Heyman promo, when he said Suplex City and all that, it was sort of weird because a year ago it'd be like, oh, it's Brock Lesnar, even at WrestleMania and all that. But now, babyface, how's that working out for you guys?
I think it's pretty good. I think Heyman just seamlessly changed his promo. I mean, there's not too much of a difference, but you can definitely tell in the way he did his promo to be more of a babyface type promo. He's not insulting the crowd or anything, but it's a very similar fashion. But I mean, Heyman, as his usual self, was absolutely amazing in the promo. I wasn't too crazy about the whole apology thing where, it's one thing if he's shaking JBL's hand and then to do the whole noogie thing with Cole. I mean, he still kind of showed his dominance, I guess, He still established dominance, but it's still we want Brock Lesnar as a nonstop killing machine. He shouldn't be noogieing people. He should be intimidating Cole because we'll pop for that.
Yeah, but I think for that exact reason was why I was okay with it, because you got Brock Lesnar. You got a guy that literally F5'd the shoes off of Michael Cole. Yeah. So when he went to grab Michael Cole, you're basically leaving Cole in a position where he should pee himself by all consideration. And then it was just for a little friendly noogie. I think it was okay.
Yeah, for me, it's cool, I guess, because who is it? Jericho always says in his podcast, whenever you come back, you got to do something different. So I get, Brock is babyface now. He can't just do the same thing he did a year ago. I just find it odd how it was so different. You know, him as a person seemed very different. Like, you know, a year ago, he would just walk out, blank stare, and Paul Heyman did all the work. Now, he reminded me a lot of his feud with Eddie Guerrero. That was like over 10 years ago. Holy crap. But when he would be willing to like dance, you know, do ridiculous stuff for the sake of being a different character.
But besides that moment where he noogied Michael Cole, nothing really changed with Brock. Like, I would argue that Paul Heyman had more of a turn than Brock Lesnar, because through the rest of the segment, Brock Lesnar was just standing there, stone-faced, sometimes smiling, as he did as a heel as well. Like, Brock Lesnar is basically the same character. It's Paul Heyman that changed.
Yeah, there's not too much of a difference in Brock. Maybe like he shows a little bit more emotion on his face so that people are kind of sympathizing or whatever with him.
He's a human
more.
Being.
Yes, exactly.
Like, he's more friendly. It's not I'm going to murder you.
You humanize him a little bit, and I think that's okay. And obviously, I'm getting a little nitpicky with the noogies and stuff. It's just, I don't want to see what happens a lot where people just kind of fall into a cookie cutter babyface type of situation. And I think you can easily avoid that. Brock pretty much has to do nothing different. Heyman just tweaks his promo so that the crowd's behind them instead of against them, and you're golden.
Now here's the deep part of the conversation. Get ready, guys.
Okay.
Now, back, you know, last year when this whole Brock Lesnar, this new stage of Brock Lesnar started, you know, with the John Cena match, you know, SummerSlam, all these things, it was like Brock Lesnar is a beast that you really believe, you know, but he was a heel character. Like, he was allowed to sort of break the entire mold of everything. I mean, he killed John Cena basically in a match. Now that he's in this role, does that affect you in any way? Like, knowing that, you know, the tables have turned. So historically, whenever a guy's babyface and he was heel, like Mark Henry, you know, you talked about his theme, Keith, you know.
Yeah.
It made sense back then with the Hall of Fame, but now it doesn't. What about Lesnar?
You know, it's funny you bring up the John Cena match, because I think it really hits the point of Brock Lesnar is just Brock Lesnar, no matter face or heel, like even harder home, because yes, you're talking about this match that Brock Lesnar destroyed John Cena in, but that's also the match where Brock Lesnar mocked The Undertaker and then had like a solid 10 seconds of him just laughing at the camera. Like, he still did those kind of babyface things, even though he was really the biggest heel in the company at that time.
The thing is, if you have Brock Lesnar as a babyface, he can't be quite the dominant force, because you have to have the crowd kind of have sympathy, I guess.
I don't think you do, though. I think you just have Brock Lesnar be the guy that everybody cheers for because he's so dominant. Like, it's the same role, just almost reversed.
You know, I'm going to ask you then directly, Keith. Let's play a small booking game here, just to get an idea. So Battleground happens. Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar. What do you actually see happening in that match based on everything we've talked about then? Knowing, you know, how he faced Roman Reigns, how he faced John Cena, all these things, and now he's a slightly different character.
I think Brock Lesnar's role in the match stays the same. He's the dominant force that, like, Seth Rollins would be the guy on the offense at all times. Like, Brock Lesnar just is Brock Lesnar and takes everything Rollins can give and then just keeps getting up and going. And then Rollins starts resorting to dirty tactics because everything he throws at Brock just doesn't work. Like, it's almost the same match that he had with Roman at WrestleMania, just with a little more heel tactics later on in the match from Rollins.
See, we didn't get into the events that occurred at the end of Raw quite too much, but obviously, you know, Seth Rollins and the Authority beat down on Brock Lesnar, and they hit him they hit his knee with a chair, and, you know, basically, you know, kept the beast down at the end. And I think that where they're going with this match is, like I said, you need to build sympathy because people like the underdog. And if you make the babyface like too dominant, then either it's not exciting or people will actually dislike them. I mean, people hate the New York Yankees or like LeBron James or the Patriots because of their dominance. So you kind of have to create some sort of...
You gotta make it humble.
Exactly. They gotta make an equalizer for Lesnar, and that's like maybe he goes into this match with his knee.
4 people.
With like he goes into this match with like a shattered knee or something, whatever they determine the injury, so that it's not just like to also protect that normally if Lesnar was 100%, he would just crush Rollins.
But at the same time, you're almost like, I didn't see it as a sympathy angle. I saw it as they got the upper hand on Brock. Brock is going to come back better, stronger, and now he is angry and he is going to destroy Rollins because of that.
But they also have an angle if they have to have Lesnar lose,
No, definitely.
Yes.
For me, at least, I actually see it as a couple of comparisons. One is Brock Lesnar's MMA debut fight. Everybody was like, Brock Lesnar's going to kill this guy, and then he lost the first fight because he pretty much ran straight on to the other guy. In MMA, you don't really do that unless you're some kind of expert. I see that happening with this match, which the logic is Seth Rollins was the architect. I think the conclusion of Raw was not the end of the evolution of Seth Rollins' character, but the new phase, where it's like, I'm no longer that other guy that was like afraid. I know what works for me. And now Brock Lesnar's going to be so pissed that he can make mistakes in that match. Where Seth Rollins has at least one member of J&J Security. He has Kane, and then hopefully not broken ribs. But I like that, where it is not obvious how this match is going to play out, because you got to think logically. John Cena was killed by Lesnar.
Yeah, you have to add elements.
Yeah,
you have to add different elements. And for anyone that doesn't know, Jamie Noble's ribs were legitimately broken, because you were kind of wondering why just Joey Mercury kind of got back involved in the fray, but Noble just stayed down. Well, there was a pretty good reason.
There's the best reason, one might say.
Broken ribs by Brock Lesnar. That gets you some street cred. I don't think that anybody should be like, oh man, it's like, man, that Jamie Noble kid.
Yeah, and to just a quick point to kind of complement what you said, Ryan, they have already established that Brock, he is human. They did it at WrestleMania, where he was basically unstoppable against Roman until he made that one mistake, busted himself open on that ring post, and then all of a sudden Brock was human. So maybe that is an angle they go with.
Yeah, so overall, I know that this Raw, a lot of people were giving it a lot of flack, but if there's one thing they did right, even if maybe it was a little bit too much, is that at least by the end of Raw, you could tell where they're sort of going with Rollins. Brock Lesnar and Rollins really needs to work on that pedigree. Just work on it, please.
Yes. I don't know whose fault
Brock
that was, but
I'm going to blame that one on Brock, because he went to a knee, just a solid knee for that pedigree.
He doesn't have any luck with that pedigree. But anyway, I brought up Roman Reigns, so I want us to talk about Mr. Bray Wyatt for a couple of minutes. So he's being way more specific, and I like that, because we can go about this whole tirade that we've spoken about Bray Wyatt. We won't get to that right now. You can check out almost every episode. Basically, we talk about this point. But
if this point is a redheaded stepchild, we have done it justice.
Exactly. So to basically summarize, on Raw, he continues to bring up Roman Reigns' family. Had this really freaky room in the background. And I want to get your feedback, especially you, Ryan. I know you've been very critical about Bray Wyatt's development, but this is way more specific, not as abstract, and I like that.
Yes, he's actually doing something. It's not just, a meaningless monologue that, doesn't go anywhere. He's actually specifically kind of targeting Roman Reigns personally, talking about his daughter, and then having this kind of mock tea party in the back. He's actually, he's doing something besides just a monologue to get inside of his head. And it's nice that there's a little bit more substance to it. His character himself, hasn't quite evolved too much yet, but at least this is a step in the right direction for sure. And maybe over time, something with his actual character can develop too. But things like this, actually just doing different things, is exactly what we needed to see. So it was very refreshing.
Agreed. The big difference between this and the last couple of months is it had focus. He's not just a rambling madman at this point. He actually has focus, and that is Roman Reigns and Roman Reigns' family. As far as the whole I'm a little teapot thing, I wasn't a big fan of that because I started having like Nom flashbacks to that whole world in his hands thing.
Yeah.
And maybe it all goes full circle in that respect.
But at least it makes sense of the context.
It's nice to see him have focus. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because in other situations like John Cena, it was, John Cena, the entire character. And I think that was always the big issue. He targeted the person for everything they were. And now with Roman Reigns, it's, the family guy. So it's this specific portion about Roman Reigns that he wants to basically destroy. So personally, I'm looking forward to, we'll talk about it next week more, it still feels weird. The pay-per-view is not next week.
I know,
you can actually
right?
keep talking about this.
It is 4 weeks away.
Yeah. So taking a couple of moments to talk about Kevin Owens. Basically, I still love the guy. Everything I said last week about the baby, wrestling, the history, yes, please. So this week, he basically, any doubts that people had about him, he basically brought out. Like, you may think I'm chubby, you may think I'm all these things. So what? I beat John Cena. Do you guys like it when wrestlers sort of do what they don't usually do, which is apply logic to their promos? Because really, how can you disagree with what he said?
I will never, ever, ever disregard a wrestler who uses logic in his promos. I wholly embrace it. This segment I thought I didn't think it was anything crazy, but I think, you got a couple weeks till the pay-per-view, so not everything's going to, be as intense as it was the last few weeks where they only had like 2 weeks in between to build. So I thought it was fine. And yeah, like you said, you just get more development of Owens, talking about his like French Canadian heritage and everything. So I thought it was a good promo, not fantastic, but like I said, they got to draw things out for a little while.
Exactly. And if you want to look at it a little deeper, like Kevin Owens going out and saying all those things is kind of like the opposite to what the WWE did to John Cena back in the day when he was really getting built up as a champion. Because they basically ignored everything and pretended like it was all right. Like all of these criticisms against John Cena, they just shrugged them off and just continued him as the Superman-like character. So it just makes Kevin Owens the anti-John Cena a little bit more in those like really subtle ways. And it's awesome. And
another tidbit, let me know if you guys disagree or not. This promo was definitely for the casual audience. Case in point, the other ones, they made more reference to like 15 years wrestling, a lot more stuff of, I knew him when he was Steen and now he's Owens. But this, it's maybe the fans, like when I went to the Facebook page when he debuted, everybody talked about, he's fat, he's all this stuff, cue Scott Steiner references everywhere now. And this is sort of to silence that audience that maybe didn't know, he had this career in a place called Ring of Honor and all that. Just like, yeah, I may not look the same, but I still beat John Cena, so therefore I am a threat. Did you guys get that vibe in contrast to other promos?
Well, now that
I think it's been like that since day one, in complete honesty, because they've done so good at building Kevin Owens as a character on the WWE roster. Just every little thing that they've done, from throwing him right in with John Cena, going to town with John Cena twice at this point, putting him right in the front and center, powerbombing celebrity guests. Like, they've done such good things with Kevin Owens. It's incredible.
No, I think you make a good point, Juan. And maybe the first couple promos and stuff was more of a nod to the hardcore fans, but now it's like you're letting in the more casual fans, although I'm sure they started paying attention the second Owens beat John Cena.
No, definitely. And this is a little bit frustrating. The next thing I want to bring up, the Bella situation with Alicia Fox. Alicia
From
Fox
the
is,
best to the worst, one might say.
This is so difficult because I want to be able to support the Divas division, but so basically now the Bellas have recruited Alicia Fox, who is the other person that week in and week out doesn't know what the hell she is in the roster. One week she's face, the other one she's a bad girl, and now they just got them all together, and it kind of gives me a headache.
And they faced Tamina and Naomi, who were established
heels. Bad people.
Exactly. Yeah. Tamina, has she ever been face in WWE?
Yes, she was.
Like maybe very
she was
early
way
on.
back in the early days, and she was like doing the whole Superfly thing, like
Right before AJ, before she teamed up with AJ.
Exactly.
Right.
Hey, I mean, we can summarize this up. Another week. Hey, they don't care, so we don't care.
Why should we?
You know, we have accidentally developed a weekly segment, which is like the Divas situation. We support them, but did it change this week? No? Okay. You know, maybe next week, hopefully. Now, this is
We almost need like a days without incident with the Divas division. And right now we're at a solid 0.
And I always want to clarify the WWE one, not the NXT one. That's my favorite part of NXT right now, above everything else. Alexa Bliss, you're awesome. So, from bad to kind of just as bad, Ryan, you broke a video over the weekend stating that there is a possibility that Dolph Ziggler may be leaving the WWE. So, it's kind of funny that we're talking about him now, the Lana triangle. Now we have Adam Rose and Rosa involved into the mix. Get it? Because they're, their names, Rose and Rosa.
Like Adam Rosa, yeah.
Yes. And then we have Rusev and Summer Rae, and just none of this. This was a really, really cringy segment for me because not one thing just seemed genuine. It just.
Am I supposed to be like cheering when Ziggler and Lana are making out? Because I was even then I was just
it's kind of depressing.
Yeah, really. I was just like, I don't want to see this. Like, I like Lana and I like Ziggler, but I really just don't get it. And I know basically they have no idea what to do because Rusev got hurt and maybe they had all these plans and now they're just kind of stalling. But it's just, or they're stalling, whatever.
Oh. Keith, you can talk now.
Now I'm going to let that one sit for a minute. But no, it just seems like nobody is benefiting from this entire thing. Like, Rusev basically looks like a buffoon at this point.
I feel so bad for him.
Yeah, like he was so good. He drove out on a tank a couple of months ago.
Never do a WrestleMania feud with John Cena. You'll just never recover.
Apparently, like Lana has basically lost all her credibility during this feud. Like she went from the super powerful woman figure in the WWE to just smiles and the thing on Dolph Ziggler's arm. And Dolph Ziggler himself has not benefited from this at all. Like he's gone lower in this mid-card hell that he's found himself in for so long, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. I just want to see this end, in complete honesty.
You remember when I talked about how they had the potential for Lana to actually be sort of the main villain, and Rusev was just kind of like her mercenary, and now it's just like she was like the power figure, really, and Rusev like just kind of did her bidding, and that has fallen off so far. And it's just like WWE has like committed character assassination on so many people recently, like Lana and Sandow. You can go on. And just on a side note, Rosa Mendez should never be allowed near a microphone ever.
Ever. She can't even speak Spanish. Her theme song, it's on Spotify. She can't even say the word dangerous in Spanish. It's one word. Your whole character. Oof, no, I'm just going to relax. The last thing I want to bring up about this is that maybe, because every week I think to myself, at what point did they think this was going to work? And the only sense that I can make of it is like, in music, people always wish, what if the Beatles made an album with X or Y? That would be amazing. It doesn't always work when you put two good things together. Maybe they thought, Lana is great, Dolph Ziggler gets over, so let's pair them up.
Or it could have been
got over for the exact opposite reasons.
It could have been some temporary thing where it was just supposed to be during the Ziggler and Rusev feud, and then that was it. But now they're just kind of stuck. You don't know. And then what about like Rusev and Summer Rae? Do we have any other further comments on that, or is that just why?
No, I actually I want to talk about the one guy we barely referenced, which is Adam Rose. Like, what? Just I don't get it. You put out the E60 documentary with like this family man. There was a quote. He said something during that promo that really upset me, what was it? I don't remember, but it was something about like this is true love, like this is true love or something like that. And I'm like, no, none of this segment works.
There's too many people on Raw that are just like, too many people on the roster that just have like no credibility, because they'll show up like every 3 weeks and they're just gonna lose whatever match they're in. Like when Zack Ryder shows up or Adam Rose, it's like, they don't have a chance. It's like, why even bother? Just only use certain amount of people. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? That there's just like, there's no credibility to them. That's a very, very dark
thing you just said. When you consider that those are people's lives you just talked about, that's a very dark statement.
I'm not asking for anyone to lose their job. I'm just saying that from a television show standpoint, there's no point in the way that they use some of these characters. We've just been trained to be like, this person is irrelevant. This character doesn't matter.
Or just even look at it from the other side of the coin, where maybe make them win once in a while, and maybe all of a sudden Adam Rose has a place in this feud with Rusev and Dolph Ziggler.
And I think another example, it's been a while since we've brought up Breaking Bad references. One of my favorite Breaking Bad episodes was about a bee or whatever the hell it was. A fly, yeah, about the fly. Like,
it's a very
nothing else.
Polarizing episode. People either love or hate that episode.
Yeah, I loved it. And that episode is an example, and many TV shows have had this. It's okay to have an episode where this character is not always on there, but you have to justify. You have to like work something around it. This character took a break, or this character just doesn't want to be here. But when you turn Adam Rose heel, we all said it. This is going to happen, and he's just not going to show up and become irrelevant. And all of that happened in a week. So then he shows up on Raw, and we're supposed to care about him and Rosa making out. I just wanted to bump my screen.
You can kind of just take this back to the Divas thing. I think as people who have watched wrestling for a very long time, and there's, a lot of devoted wrestling fans that probably think the exact same way, is that we can see right through the character and directly at the writers. And we can tell when they give a damn and when they don't. So when we see a character like Adam Rose, we know they don't care at all. They have no plans for him. They just threw him on TV to do a throwaway segment with Ziggler and Lana because, hey, Ziggler and Lana are a couple, and hey, like, 2 months ago, we threw these people together and we don't even care, but they're also a couple, so that's easy to do a match there to fill some time.
And Adam Rose, if you're listening, we're sorry, man.
We're sorry because E60, sorry, we're just coming off of E3 week, but E60, that it was the most compelling thing I've seen with Adam Rose, and you really wanted to see more of this guy, but the writers don't care.
Yeah, now I got an ambulance behind me, which means it's time to get to a couple of announcements. As I mentioned in the channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast, Ryan brought up the video regarding Dolph Ziggler possibly leaving the WWE. We're not going to talk about it too much now in the podcast because we don't know if it's going to happen. There's a ton of rumors. Is it going to be the next John Morrison / Johnny Bruno? We don't know. So stay tuned. By the way, this Thursday, people, Ryan, it's time. Keith,
I'm excited.
You're the general manager about this, so I think you should be the person to really deliver the message, not me.
I mean, we built it, we've hyped it, it's all over the Twitter. It is time for the season finale of Fight Night. I have used all the resources at my disposal to really make this the go-home show that Fight Night deserves. And I think y'all are gonna love it. It's gonna be real good. It's crazy. There's just crazy things.
It has a lot of artistic pieces, courtesy of Mr. Ryan McNulty, that I know you're just gonna want to love. It's very black and white, if you will.
And as the general manager, I take full credit because that's what I do.
Why not? And thanks to everybody that hung out with us this past Friday over at twitch.tv/ByteThat. I played some Metal Gear Solid, and they were...
Now, let's put that in quotations. You played Metal Gear Solid.
You can still go over there, check out the video archive, and there's a couple of moments where... I remember there's one specific part where everybody on the stream was against me because I was playing so bad. And one guy wrote,
and you proved them all right.
One guy wrote at one point, I still have hope in Juan, and I killed myself with a claymore as he wrote that, and then he was like, I'm done. So for the remainder of the stream, everybody was just waiting for me to die, and it kept happening. So if you want to join that fun...
You didn't let people down, I guess?
Yeah, technically. So if you want to join in that fun, we're going to keep playing some Metal Gear on the road to Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain. Go over to twitch.tv/byte that. Hit that follow button to heart, not just to love us, but to follow us and to know when we are going to be streaming, which will probably sooner rather than later. And by the way, you know, we do have a couple of things, Ryan, right? You know, we are on the way to episode 100.
Yes. The big 100 will finally be in triple digits, so that's pretty exciting. And we've got some cool things planned, including very soon we'll be announcing a contest, probably in the next couple weeks. And notice I said the word contest and not giveaway. We normally do giveaways, so we're actually going to be asking those who want to participate.
You're going to have to work for this one.
Yes, we're asking for a little bit of creativity on your side. So stay tuned for that.
Artists of Byte that listen to us, stay tuned for that. And also another quick thing I want to bring up. If you go to the channel, we always have what we call the Square Roundtables. Basically, the podcast, we talk about Raw primarily. You know what's going on every week to week in the world of the WWE. But the SRTs are sort of a way of talking about other things. You know, wish lists, factions, things that may or may not have happened. So if you have anything that you want us to talk about that you know doesn't usually revolve around podcast type topics, send us a tweet at ByteThatCast, send us an email, ByteThatCast@gmail.com, you know, Facebook, wherever it is. But you know, we're going to be recording a couple in the very near future, so we want you to be involved. And something else that's going to be happening is that we record on a Tuesday, and tonight is the official debut of Tough Enough. You know, Tough Enough has been happening for about a month through YouTube and all these things, but this is like the official show with like Paige, Dana Bryan, everybody getting involved. Are you guys hyped for it?
You know, it's really hard. I'd love to be hyped for Tough Enough, but I find it very hard to care at all. Because whenever somebody wins, they go nowhere. So from that point of view, it's just very hard to care about Tough Enough. Like, the losers of Tough Enough have gone farther than people that have won the show.
Well, yeah. I'm going to see if I can... I don't know if I'll be able to catch it tonight, but if I can catch some way of highlights. I don't know if they're going to have stuff on YouTube. But I'll try to at least follow it, if not watching it week to week. But like Keith said, you almost got to look out for either the first few people eliminated or whatever, because though the actual winner has like no luck at all when it comes to like Diva Search and Tough Enough, things like that.
Question regarding Tough Enough. Do you prefer A, the American Idol way, which I watch, which is I want to watch the worst possible people and have fun, or B, do you actually want to see the next Maven? I guess is the best example I can.
I mean, you kind of answered your own question there, because there's not much of a comparison.
Well, I mean, what would be like the American Idol version, like the beginning of American Idol? Would it just be like it looks like a backyard match or something? Like, I don't know.
Would The Miz be like the equivalent of Kelly Clarkson? I guess maybe like.
But Kelly Clarkson actually won the first American Idol,
and Kelly Clarkson's actually good.
Well, we'll leave that up to people's opinions, but I mean, The Miz. But which Tough Enough was he in? Was he in like the $1 Million one?
Or? He was.
No, I think he was the first or the second.
No, not the first.
He was the host. He was the host of $1 Million Tough Enough.
Yeah, he was the host. I believe it was Tough Enough season 2 or 3. I know it wasn't the first one.
Josh Matthews was kind of the king of that one, in a way, in a weird way.
Yeah, because it always seems like Tough Enough, it was the way of showing that underdogs can sort of do something, or that they try harder. But at the end of the day, it's just, you know, this is entertainment. If it was just sport, you'd be like, okay, cool. But, you know, I looked at Josh Matthews during that season, and I could see the potential, but I would prefer to watch somebody else. You know?
I mean, but all things considered, like, if you look at the other Tough Enough winners, Maven didn't do that bad for himself. You know, he had, granted, he wasn't the most exciting guy, he didn't set the world on fire, but he was on the roster for a solid amount of time and was a decent wrestler.
And that's kind of where that stops.
If you win tough enough, at some point within the 10 years of you winning, you're going to become a decent wrestler.
I will never forget that he had, when he got to be the host GM after that Survivor Series all those years ago, like 2006 or something like that, 2005. He had the most compelling episode of Raw when he was the GM and he gave himself a title shot. So he's got that going for him, and of course eliminating Undertaker from the Royal Rumble as like one of the few things he can hang his hat on, as well as like hardcore champion.
He probably has a frame, like a GIF that it was framed on his room of that dropkick just happening over and over and over with his theme song. Hey, his theme song was really good.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that was a great theme.
So drop
agree to disagree.
Oh, but this next topic. I wanted to save it for this point. We've talked about Raw. We've talked about a couple of things. And last night, for everything that was good about it, it is tiring me. Honestly, the 3 hours. Which led me to another question. When is the last time you enjoyed a 3-hour Raw? By the show. Keep in mind, I'm talking about the show, and I'm like, oh, this segment was awesome, and like out of the 3 hours, the 20 minutes was good. When's the last time you looked forward to Raw before it even began, when it got to 3 hours? Because I honestly could not answer. Because, there's always like post-WrestleMania, but does that even count? It seems like it's cheating.
Maybe a little bit. So when was the last time I was hyped before a Raw?
A 3-hour Raw.
Before a 3-hour Raw, that is pretty much exclusively the post-Mania Raws, or if something really big happens on the previous week. Like the whole Shield breaking up thing, I don't remember if that was right up against a pay-per-view. I don't think it was. So maybe I was really hyped to see the fallout of that, because SmackDown, they generally don't do too much. But I can also think of, there's been a couple Raws where it's like you're entertained throughout. Like, I know after the post-Mania Raw with the whole Fandangoing things, like maybe a month and a half later, there was just like a really, really good Raw. And you were like, whoa, it feels like somebody else wrote this Raw. It was so good. That was the last time I could think of being just like, aside from post-Mania Raws, being entertained throughout.
Yeah, and as far as like looking forward to a Raw before it starts, like really all the examples I can think of are ones that are put against a pay-per-view. Like the Raw didn't end up being very good, but I was looking forward to the Raw after Survivor Series, after Sting debuted, to see if they were going to do something with that. And the fact that the Authority was gone, like that could have been a really big Raw. It kind of sunk. But with Raw, you mostly just wait and see, like, it's either going to sink or it's going to swim. Like, sometimes it's just awesome. Maybe you're not entertained for the whole 3 hours, but you get a solid hour and a half, 2 hours out of the show that's really good.
Yeah, because the thing you brought up, for example, Sting going to show up? When Raw was 2 hours, the benefit was that it was a much shorter time period of, like, when was that going to happen? When was Sting going to come out? But now you have like 3 hour Raws. Like, and the fact of the matter is that, at least for me, the last 30 minutes of the show are often irrelevant. Like, for example,
it's because they do the same thing every week. Yeah.
You get an idea of what's going to happen. Like, for example, last night, honestly, I didn't watch it live, like the last 30 minutes, because I was like, something's going to happen with Brock Lesnar. He's going to beat somebody down, so I'm just going to wake up and watch that. And that's pretty much what happened. Like, yeah, he was sort of beat down afterwards, but for the past month, I can pretty much do that, and I don't feel like I'm missing anything, because if anything, it's cooler when you wake up and watch that. It's almost a benefit to wait for the YouTube clip that WWE posts.
This is like a serious question to like everybody who watches. Is there anyone out there who legitimately sits on their couch, watches Raw, and just Raw those 3 hours, and is not doing anything else at all? Like, your entire focus is on Raw. Is that humanly possible in this day and age?
And we're not even counting being on Twitter or anything like that. Just sitting there watching Raw.
Yeah, because we fail that question.
Like, I hear
hard.
other podcasts talking about saying that, like, they can't even watch the regular version. They have to watch, like, the Hulu version or whatever. Like,
and it honestly sounds pretty good.
It is. It's like you get all the important stuff. Like, this 3 hour format, I was excited about it way back when it first started, but like it's like you leave a piece of you behind every episode, you know? It takes a bit of your soul every week.
Exactly. And as kind of a weird follow-up question, when was the last time we got a 3-hour Raw? Like last night, it went over like 18 minutes.
That's
it was
a good
almost
point,
a 3.5-hour Raw. So we're talking about how it just feels like way too much, and they keep on adding extra every single week.
Those two questions, please send us a tweet at ByteThatCast, ByteThatCast@gmail.com. We will bring them up as we get them for next week, because that is a very deep discussion that we can get to. Okay, so until then, we are going to be getting to a ton of listener questions that we got. Once again, ByteThatCast@gmail.com, Twitter @ByteThatCast. We got a lot of emails this week, Twitter questions, which always brings up, moderation. We got to figure out a way to strategize to make sure that everybody can participate. So whenever you send us a question, make sure to limit it to 1 or 2, so that way everybody can join the fun.
Everybody gets a turn.
Everybody gets a piece of the turkey. And if you're a vegetarian, then you get you can get like a
tofu turkey.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And if you in Listenerland are looking to join the fun, you can send us a tweet over to twitter.com/ByteThatCast or send us an email, bytethatcast@gmail.com. Much like the Bloody Rat did. That's
He's
a Twitter
from
name
India,
right there.
by the way, which is mind-blowing when I saw that tweet. Like, people listen from all over the world. That is just awesome.
Indeed, I can't wrap my head around it. It's incredible. There's little Canadian boys or somebody's listening to him in India. It's that's the sound of my mind blowing. But the Bloody Rat, the bloody_rat on Twitter asks us, name Shanky. Why, hello, Shanky. How amazing would it be if we see Lesnar versus Reigns, the WrestleMania rematch, and then Sheamus comes out with his briefcase? Lesnar and Reigns both stop and just kind of beat the crap out of Sheamus. My question is, what if Lesnar somehow lost by a distraction because of this? Hope to get this featured on Tuesday's podcast, which I get to see on Wednesday due to different time zones. Cheers, guys. So how cool would that be?
Well, mission accomplished. And Shanky, that's an awesome name. By the way,
we're assuming that Lesnar wins at Battleground at this point.
Yes.
If he ever goes to prison, he just has the perfect name. But anyway,
how do you know he hasn't?
That's true. Well, anyway, all right, Lesnar versus Reigns. It may not happen at WrestleMania again, but if it happened at SummerSlam, I actually think that would be an amazing moment. If Sheamus tries to cash in and both Lesnar and Reigns just have this moment where they stare at each other and they acknowledge, like, nah, this crap ain't happening again. And they both just beat the hell out of Sheamus. So I think that's a great suggestion. And it's very possible that Lesnar could lose in a distraction type method. I think that's the best way to try and protect his mystique. So I think that's a very plausible scenario. I just think SummerSlam's a little bit more likely than WrestleMania.
Yeah, for me, it actually goes very well with my prediction where it didn't matter who won the briefcase. They are not winning the championship. So I would think that this is a great way, because think of the heat, like the hatred that Sheamus would get when he comes out. And people are like, are you kidding me? We're getting Sheamus. That happens. The match keeps going. Would he lose the briefcase? I don't think so. Like that was the part, because that's happened before. They come out, they cash in, unless they do the official announcement. I don't know. I'm overthinking it, but I would love to see something like that happen.
Yeah, I don't think Sheamus would lose the briefcase in that, because they're building Roman Reigns up to a point where everybody likes him. They could have nuclear heat on Sheamus if he cashes in on Roman Reigns out of nowhere. But as far as the actual scenario goes, Ryan basically said everything that I would say, and I agree with his point. 100%, it would be totally awesome. But we're not done with Shanky, folks, because Shanky, aka the Bloody Rat, asks us another question. If you had to push one wrestler, an underdog, who's not in the main event picture for the WWE Championship, who would it be?
Who's my pick, guys? You should know me well enough to know this answer. Come on.
Fandango?
Yes, that's Johnny Curtis.
Yeah, of course.
I will keep saying it. Fandango's Johnny Curtis. Can you just get a clip of an
Talk
older
about them
episode?
NXT days, Juan. Talk about them NXT days with the milk and all that.
Ryan can basically answer for me, but yeah. I can't even say it. Just go, Ryan.
Did you ever meet him at Fan Access?
Yes,
I did. Why don't you tell us about that?
I have a shirt with a signature on it. It is the only signature I got.
What a
Was that him or Derek Bateman that you were in a line for, and it was just you in that line?
Yeah, that was me, and it was Johnny Curtis. Yes, I did meet Derek Bateman and Maxine too, which is awesome.
No, all right, great answer. I don't know if it's like underdog, but I would say Biggie Langston. I think this is a guy who has so much upside, and he's got a lot of untapped charisma that I feel like he's just kind of starting to kind of hone right now. And he's a big dude. I think he's got a great look, and I think he could be super entertaining. When he was doing the New Day stuff is awesome. When he was doing the 5 count stuff, it was great. So I think they got so much potential with this guy, and he hasn't really scratched that main event scene yet, but he definitely has the potential.
And for me, I would say somebody that they are miserably using right now that deserves so much better and never really got his shot at the WWE Championship, and that would be King Barrett, or Bad News Barrett, or Wade Barrett, or whatever you want to call him. Like, when he was at his hottest, he never won the title, and he never really recovered from it. But I personally think he would make a great heel champion. Almost kind of in the same vein as Seth Rollins, but with that little bit of Barrett, what would you call it?
Flair.
That Barrett je ne sais quoi to it. So, yeah, Barrett. Just do something with him, because God, just know it's terrible right now. Terrible. Terrible. And on that light note, on to the next question from Mr. Briven Savio Vega, represent. And he is Mr. No, he's not Mr. at Harry 10204, representing the 204 on Twitter. And he asks, Hey buddy, I have a question. Why does John Cena get booed in front of someone like Kevin Owens? What's going on?
I'm just going to point out, my favorite part of the episodes is always Keith reading out the questions. It's my favorite every single week. Yeah, I think
I try, okay?
No, I love it. I think the overall gist of it is that John Cena is catered to a very specific generation that consumes WWE in a much lighthearted way. Like, I don't think that the majority of people that go to the shows, that buy all of the shirts and all that, would even listen to a podcast. That's just me assuming. And not even like a fan podcast like ours. I mean, like Jericho, like where they consume Raw, and that's cool. You know, they go to the shows, pay-per-views, but all that other stuff, it's wrestling to them. It's just, a thing on Mondays.
Yeah, I mean, I think John Cena, he appeals to the women and the children, and Kevin Owens is kind of the antithesis of John Cena. So the adult males are really into Owens. I mean, Cena's always dealt with a split crowd because a lot of the older guys just don't buy it. He's too cheesy. He's too much of a squeaky clean baby face that the adult male generally likes like an anti-hero, which is why someone like Steve Austin is just more appealing. So that's pretty much why whoever John Cena faces is generally cheered by half the audience.
Keith, are you an adult male that likes anti-heroes?
I am.
All right, cool.
All right. It just goes back to the whole "let's go Cena sucks" thing. Like the Cena sucks crowd has a champion in Kevin Owens, and they will ride him to the bank and just hope that
that's a little graphic, but
just a little bit.
What you mean?
Yes, and then just hope that this is the guy that they can just destroy John Cena with. Destroy John Cena with. And let's move on to our next question from Kane Yo-Yo, the leader.
Kane represent.
Yo-Yo at Kane Yo-Yo on Twitter.
Twitch represent.
Whatever Juan said. All right, he asks, will Kevin Owens fight Brock Lesnar in the next couple of years? If so, when? Is this a dream match?
Yes. Yes. And when? That is a damn good question. I think inevitably it will lead to that. I think it will actually be almost when Brock Lesnar turns heel again, and then Kevin Owens is a babyface, because whatever they have right now is going to stick for a long time. So I'm not even saying next year's WrestleMania. I'm saying like 2 WrestleManias maybe we'll see this happen.
I honestly don't think it's a guarantee. Brock Lesnar, if you look, since he's been here in like 2012, he's fought a very limited exclusive club. And we really have to see what happens with Kevin Owens in the next few months after his feud with John Cena. We don't know how far he might fall down the card or anything, but if he's staying in the main event area, I think there's a good chance it'll happen. But otherwise, I don't know. Lesnar's only fought a couple different people, so there's a chance it just doesn't come together.
Yeah, and from my opinion, would I think this match would be awesome? Yes, it would be awesome. Do I want to see this match happen? No, I actually don't, because I think Kevin Owens and Brock Lesnar should be kept as far apart on the roster as possible, because they're very similarly built at their core. Like, they're both monsters, just unstoppable forces, right? If you put them against each other, one of them has to lose. So that person is going to be degraded almost, like they're going to be less of themselves as a character by losing that match. Like, there can only be one conqueror, really. So whether it's Brock Lesnar or Kevin Owens that loses, they get hurt really bad from a character point of view.
That's very true.
So it'd be awesome, but I don't think it should happen. So thank you for your question, Sir Leader of Kane Yo-Yo. Now on to the next one from Juan's boy.
My boy.
Your boy, Juan. Your boy. He sent a question. Now, who's your boy? Give him a shout out.
Mr. NKBE1324, who's also at the Twitch stream.
Exactly. You can hang out with him and us and watch Juan miserably play Metal Gear on some days on Twitch. But he asks, do you think that Seth Rollins may actually end up being alone at Battleground?
I think there's going to be a ton of shenanigans going on during that match. We saw the Authority did kind of help Seth Rollins take down Lesnar. And like I said, they kind of want an equalizer so that this just isn't a complete squash match on Rollins. So I think there's going to be a ton of interference.
Yeah, for me, I think I'm still not decided. In 2 weeks, I can give a better answer. For now, what I speculate to see happen is that they start to support Rollins at the beginning, but then they sort of back out. So, like, he's left alone, even though at the beginning he sort of thought he had the backup.
They have built up Brock Lesnar to be so strong in this run that you can't have a single person beat him, especially that's a heel. So you basically need to throw everything you have at Brock Lesnar to even have a chance. So I think that's why they wrapped it all around to have the Authority back together, because now instead of just a one-on-one match with Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar, now you have a 1-on-3 match with Seth Rollins, Brock Lesnar, or Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar, Kane, and Joey Mercury. Jamie Noble being out of the picture in this respect. I hope you get better soon, Jamie. But on to the next question. From Barney Johnson at Barnaballs on Twitter. And he asks, well, it's a 2-part question, so let's go with part 1. Part 1 is, if you could have someone come to NXT that currently isn't on the WWE roster, who would it be?
Probably Sasha Banks to save the Divas division.
Someone come up to NXT that Wait. I think he's saying, like, if you have somebody that, like, isn't in the WWE in NXT, who would it be?
Yeah. So, like, somebody from maybe the independent scene?
Yeah.
Okay, for me, I think I'm probably the better fitted person for this.
Hey, I have an answer, and it's a good answer.
Okay,
yeah.
I actually want to hear yours first then.
My answer would be Johnny Mundo, John Morrison. Even though he's been in the WWE before, it's kind of like a technicality at that point, but I think he could have some insane matches with people that are currently in NXT.
For me, I can't pick one person in particular. I'm going to go all Ring of Honor
John Morrison,
with this one.
if you don't know.
Yes, John Morrison. For me, maybe somebody like Silas Young would be an interesting pick. Probably Moose from Ring of Honor. I think that guy has a ton of charisma. I've been watching Ring of Honor TV for about 2 to 3 months now consistently, and he was a guy that I always heard about. And then just watching him wrestle, it's like you can feel the charisma. He has a really good build. It seems like somebody that would work very well in WWE.
All right, my new renewed answer. I think I would go with, even though I guess they're on the older side now. I mean, there's plenty of dream matches you want to see with AJ Styles. And then also I really enjoyed Austin Aries in his early TNA days.
That is a good answer.
So he's another guy I'd like to see. And what is his name? The guy who's in Paparazzi Productions, Alex Shelley. He's another guy who I was a big fan of.
And hey, if Samoa Joe got to NXT, anything is a possibility.
True.
I mean,
that kind of leaves the door open for a lot of guys.
Yeah, dad bod is infecting wrestling / invading. But on to part 2 of Sir Barnaball's question. If you could bring someone down from the main WWE roster into NXT, who would that be? Any guesses Cesaro will appear in this answer?
Are we? Can we confirm that?
I mean, I don't think Cesaro's my answer, but...
Can I go first?
Yes.
Go for it.
I'm actually going to go with your earlier pick for the one of the previous questions. I'm going to say Wade Barrett. If you notice, the biggest problem with Barrett is that they always try these new things out in front of huge audiences. And that seems to fall flat. Whenever he's on YouTube or anything else that's smaller for the WWE, he seems to do very well. So I would love to see him in a much smaller format. Have like the Bad News Barrett type thing, but on NXT. I think he would really do good there.
This is killing me because I actually had an answer and I completely forgot. It's painful.
Meanwhile, Keith, what's yours? Let's help Ryan out.
Yes, let's fill some dead air. I kind of have 2 answers for this because I equally want them to go back as much. And my first answer is Bo Dallas. Bo Dallas was amazing in NXT. It's incredible. And then when he went to the main roster, it's just fallen flat miserably. And the second person that I would like to see go down is probably Sandow. Like, he's kind of back to where he started.
There you go. That was it.
And that was your answer. There we go.
Thank you.
I was channeling you right there and then just got that answer. But, like, Sandow's kind of back to where he was before the whole Mizdow thing. Why not even just repackage him and bring him down to NXT? Just hit the reset button hard with Sandow and just have him go through the system again.
Exactly. I think Tyson Kidd really found himself when he went down and did his NXT run. And I think Sandow would greatly benefit from that because he's just a guy who, much like Tyson Kidd, you were like, you see all the potential in this guy, and it's just like there's something missing. And it was like they were really on to something, but we knew the whole Mizdow thing would never last. And they could have ended it better, but we still were always questioning where it would go. So he could really just use the time to just like, he really needs to find that thing.
That's a really good pick, yeah.
Indeed. Well, thank you for your questions. Everybody on Twitter, thank you for those questions. They were all great.
I had a Wikipedia list of WWE personnel ready to go through the list, and then you said...
You had to find it.
Sandow, and I was like, that's it.
I am your savior. Save Ryan.22. And now to save us, we are going to go over to the email side of our question segment. And 2 questions come in, both from Mr. Zach Hardy. You know him from last week. He asked some interesting questions, but we're going to let those stay there. But this week...
Basically, there's some kind of rivalry going on between Keith and Zach Hardy. I don't know why, but everybody just hates Keith. I keep saying it. So.
You know, I didn't fire the first shot. And really, I'm the victim in this. So...
Heel turn. Go ahead.
Exactly. On to the question. Enough about my whining and complaining. Mr. Zach Hardy asks... If the Nexus had beaten John Cena and his squad at that year's SummerSlam, where do you think they would have gone in the company? And as a result of the answer, if they hadn't lost to John Cena in any match they ever had with him, where would they be? Well, they would be in a way better position than they ended up. Let's start with that.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that maybe even the Shield would not have happened. because that really put a damper. And that is the one situation. Yeah, like that is the one situation where every wrestler in interviews, like, you know, former WWE guys have gone like, yeah, that killed it. That would have changed things, and it didn't.
And to kind of go back to something I mentioned earlier, if they never got buried, I think Wade Barrett would have won the WWE Championship at that time. And everything would have felt better about Barrett's career.
Basically, if they would have, assuming they never lost, like you said, they probably would have basically had the run the Shield had, and Roman Reigns would equal Wade Barrett type of situation. You know what I mean? He would be like the guy that they would want to build around, potentially. If Vince McMahon could get past the whole British thing, we don't know. That remains to be seen. But I think they definitely would have, we would have seen guys come out of that group a lot more successful, like we're seeing with Ambrose, Rollins, and Reigns.
Potentially. You got to think it was in that group.
But I mean, the Shield's one of the few factions you can say was booked right almost the entire time. And
you're totally correct, because if you think about the first few months of the Nexus, that was pretty much the Shield's whole run. Like, that was the feeling the entire time.
A lot of factions like drop off hard towards the end, so there's a good chance that that could have happened as well.
And we talk about it on the YouTube channel.
Indeed. So might as well plug our SRT here of why factions don't work. Where can you find that, you ask?
Or invasion
faithful listener. Yes. And you can find that at youtube.com/bytethatcast.
Keith had to follow the script.
Indeed.
We got one more question from Mr. Zach Hardy, so take it away, Keith.
Yes, we do, and it is the final question of the show. We made it, guys. But first, Mr. Zach Hardy asks, where do you think the WWE would be right now had Vince McMahon tragically passed away in 2010? I choose 2010 because that's when the WWE really went into full-on PG era mode, at least in his opinion.
WWE without Vince McMahon is probably on the back of everybody's minds. I'm not saying like, you know, oh, Vince died or not, but what will that look like? I legitimately have no idea because we've never been exposed to WWE without Vince McMahon. You know, anything else that we see, we've been so conditioned to for
of
all
the
that
hypotheticals, that is the greatest hypothetical.
We can hate wrestling every week, WWE specifically, but we'll come back to it because it is that thing we are trained to like at some point or appreciate. So I don't know. I legitimately cannot answer this.
Yeah, it's really tough because we don't even know how PG they would even be because, you know, a lot of that had to do with Linda McMahon's Senate run, which we assume, you know, if Vince is not, you know, Stephanie McMahon still being involved, we don't really know.
I think that would have been the
PG
same.
era probably still happened just because it's more friendly for advertisers, but I think NXT is like the closest glimpse we have to if maybe Triple H was really front and center of operating things, that it might be a little more old school, it might be a little more simplified, but we really don't know because like Juan said, all we've ever known is Vince's vision, and all we can really say is that probably there would be a very there would just be a shift thing, there would be a different feel to it for sure.
You know, you brought up the whole Triple H's NXT thing. It kind of makes you think, like, maybe it would be better. Because if NXT was just Raw, like, that'd be pretty awesome, right?
It's true, but we've also talked about why NXT is the way that it is. You know, they're allowed to be more free. They don't have the pressure that Monday Night Raw has of weekly ratings and all that. So there's a whole mess of things of why, you know, Raw is just this, like, you know, fusion of all this crap that they have to throw together because they gotta please this crowd and they gotta please that crowd and they gotta please the advertisers and they gotta please the stockholders and all that. So it just becomes this monster of 3 hours of soul-sucking entertainment.
Yeah. I guess in conclusion, the day Vince McMahon is not involved is the day wrestling kind of stops temporarily. Because not just WWE, but everybody's going to be thinking like, crap. I mean, they're the primary image for everything. Like Ring of Honor, everything. Because WWE is synonymous with wrestling around the world. Whether we see it that way or not. So when that happens, Wow.
It's true. It's going to make such an impact on the wrestling world that's why it is frequently discussed. Like, is there any other person that is so important to one particular industry that their death means like so much? And yeah, it's going to be crazy because nobody knows what's going to happen. And
quite honestly, it's a world I don't want to think about.
Yes, it really is. And we hope it's not for a long time because Vince is, he's so
God.
important. He is so important to the wrestling industry.
So thank you for your question.
So thank you, Mr. Zach Hawdy, for your question. It is a very questionable question because we cannot directly answer it. So let's liven this up as we conclude the show. Mr. McNulty, pull out the plugs.
All right, here we go. Thank you, everyone, for listening to another edition of the Byte That podcast. So as usual, we'll go through the plugs. Our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. This Thursday, the season finale of Fight Night. Seriously, watch this. It is the craziest thing we've ever produced on this YouTube channel by far. And we think you'll love it, so make sure to check that out. We also have my video up from last weekend where I talk about the possibility of Dolph Ziggler leaving WWE, and I kind of give my take on maybe it's not such a bad thing for the guy. So if you want to hear my full take, go over, check that out. Of course, you can check out our social media, our Twitter @ByteThatCast, and then Facebook.com/ByteThatCast for our Facebook. You can go to Instagram and check us out with the username ByteThat, and we're also on the app Wrestling Amino. So for everything else, you can go to our website, ByteThat.com. So thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next week.
Damn. 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 Damn.